Well, hey, how are
Oh,
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Thank you. We're so excited to talk to you about this. It's such a cool series. It's so
Oh, thank
fun.
you.
And I know, those of us who grew up on horror and read a lot, it's even better. But I mean, this is really easy for anybody to pick up on. So you got to be excited about this because this kind of showcases a lot of people that some people, even big horror fans, may not know about, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, certainly that was the intention, was to almost everything you just said, make a series that would be for people who love horror writers, people who love these horror writers, and people who maybe just love the genre and would like to learn more about horror writers. It should be for everybody, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the way you set it up too is, it's sort of does have its own documentary sort of feel, but also has like a kind of creepy, scary moments, which I'm not too sure I've seen too much of, which is really cool, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a stealth. It's a documentary series, but there are sort of weird off-kilter adaptations of short stories that are being read in each one. So you can think of it as a blend of the two, honestly. And I mean, just to pick on that for a second, I love um, film forms in general. So the idea of taking a the documentary form and like poking at it and trying to get it to do something else is, just a really fun challenge.
Yeah. And when did you realize that you had the gift? Because writing is a gift, and not everyone has it. So, when did it pop up? Maybe it might have even been before you discovered horror, right?
Oh no, it was much after I discovered. I mean,
Mm.
I started writing in my 20s and it I mean, I'll say self-effacingly, I'm still not sure I have the gift. I'll say that I do it all the time. I'm still not convinced. But I mean, there was certainly a moment, like I started off writing comics, and there was a moment sometime probably in the first script that I wrote where you do a rough draft and you put it away, and then you there's this horrifying moment when you open a rough draft back up to do your second draft. And so I remember having that moment on a script early in my career and being like, oh, you know what? This isn't so bad. And also, even more importantly, I know how to make it better. And I think that's, it's that realization that was really key for me.
Hmm. And when did you first discover horror yourself? Was it a movie or a book or a comic, or what was it for you?
So I wish I could remember specifically, but I can't. I know that I was a pretty fearful kid, so I didn't like horror as a kid. I was like super scared of Large Marge and Pee-wee's Big Adventure and like the ghost and the library ghost and Ghostbusters, like
Yeah.
just terrified of that stuff. And then in my teenage years, probably my early teenage years, I started to get into horror, and I think probably my gateway was reading it. So I read Anne Rice, I read Stephen King, Clive Barker, those sorts of things. And then in film, like I saw Aliens first because I was again a scared child, so Aliens obviously the easier one to watch. But then really started to love Alien, and then honestly, probably Sam Raimi had a lot to do with it because I loved Evil Dead 2. Like Evil Dead 2 was huge for me. So I think those are sort of the gateways into the larger genre.
Yeah, sounds exactly like my gateways. I
Yeah,
gotta
yeah.
say, I'm looking at the creature behind you, and when you
Mm.
move your hand a little close to his mouth, it's
Yeah,
I worry for you.
there it is.
Yeah, there he is. So also, people look up to what you do, and it's certainly not easy, but it is a really cool job, especially if you love horror. So, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who wants to follow in your footsteps and tell great stories?
I would say a couple things. Some of this advice is advice I would have given before making this show, but it's actually echoed in First Run Horror. And the first thing I would say is like read and watch everything that you possibly can. Um, uh, I was this way, and a lot of the authors in First Run Horror talk specifically about this, that they just read as kids, or still to this day, they read everything. They read not just horror, but they read, National Geographics, and they read like anything. And I think part of that is you need to like, it's just good to have a lot of things in your mind to pull from. And from my perspective, it is a lot of inspiration for genre stuff that I've written has come from outside the genre. So if you want to write horror that is, I mean, unique is probably too big a word, but it is interesting and unexpected and will get people's attention. It's good to try to pull from other genres and approach it in a way that it may not be immediately obvious, right? So it's almost like think about this documentary series. Like, yeah, it's a documentary series, but I was like, oh, what if we put like little mini horror shorts in it? Like, you can see that even in there. So that advice, the other advice, and this is not unique to me. Advice, I think, you you got a lot of people say like you have to let yourself, you have to give yourself permission to be really, really crappy at a thing for a long time before you get good at it. Like, and I still have to do this. Like when there is a rough draft of a thing, I can get in the middle and be like, well, this is terrible, irredeemably bad. And then I'll want to quit. And you can't. You have to just say, like, you know what? Then we're going to get to the end once and it's going to be irredeemably bad. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to, like I was saying before, I'm going to go back and I'm going to make it better. And that's, that's really the job, basically, you know?
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, my co-host Drew Pearson's one of our great Dallas Cowboys, caught the Hail Mary, won the Hall of Fame, and we love to ask people about their Hail Mary moment, which is that moment in your life or career where you just had to go for it or worked out for you. What do you suppose that was for you?
Oh, um, what a great question. Probably the very, very beginning of my screenwriting career, so the very first screenplay I wrote. And it was probably honestly similar to what you're saying here. And the Hail Mary really was just like, oh, I'm going to sit down and no matter what happens in the middle, I'm going to get to the end of the script. And it really was like that moment. And then starting to send it out to people. So sending it out to, I was an assistant at the time. So like showing it to my bosses and like having the I was gonna say faith in myself. It wasn't really, I don't know what it was because I don't think of it that way. It was more just like the wherewithal to say, here's the thing I wrote. It might be really crummy, but I need you to look at it and let me know. Like the um courage basically to expose yourself in that way, which does not come naturally to me. So that was probably it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, part of that, and we talk about that on the show, is that success mindset that you have to have, whether or not you're feeling it or not. And us creative types, we're really tough on ourselves. So, is there something you tell yourself, or is there something that you could do to pop back into action? Because writer's block is a real thing.
Oh yeah, it's a real thing. I mean, I read somewhere a piece of advice from I think it was a comic book writer, and they were like, yeah, it's almost like you have to trick your hands to start typing. And once they're typing, your mind will just sort of start to do it. I think that is true. I mean, there are a lot of times when I'm like, oh, I don't know what this is supposed to be, and it's almost like just start typing something. And if you're if you have sort of the muscle memory, I guess, brain memory, like you'll just start to tell yourself a story, and then you can sort of get over that hump. But it's really it's really hard, and it again it has a lot to do with giving yourself permission to letting that first draft, that first sentence, that first word be wrong, and just keep going. Just it's fine. Just keep going.
Yeah. So, what is it that inspires you now? Because there's a lot of horrifying things in the world. There's a lot of material to take from, right?
Oh, what inspires me now? I mean, I get inspired by other creatives, really. Like the obviously First Run Horse full of great writers, so like I find them inspiring. I like almost anybody that sits down and is like, I'm gonna do this thing, I'm gonna make this thing. Here's this idea I had. I think that's all it's all inspiring. I tend not to, I think the real world is horrifying enough. I tend not to look at real events and be like, well, I'm gonna take inspiration from that. I would rather seek inspiration in other creativities, other creatives or in my own sort of like imagination. Although that being said, inevitably the real world seeps into one's imagination. Like there's no way to prevent that. So
Well, so after this, I can't wait to see what you have coming up next. What do you have coming up next for us?
oh, a bunch of things. I write video games too. I've got a video game that will come out, I think, sometime in 2026. That's a sort of horror sci-fi thing from a company called Frictional that makes a series called Amnesia. Um, I write for an Amazon show called Secret Level. The first season of that just came out And we're starting on a second season now. I'm not sure when that will be out, but at some point. And starting looking at my list of projects to see if there's anything else that's coming out
Yeah.
soon that I could tell you. Um, and there will, but so First Round Horror season one will end in May. But the company that made it, which is called Etch, we have another series that's a fiction horror series that will premiere in the fall. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Ah, that's so cool. Well, there's a lot to learn here in the series, and a lot to get out of it. So besides, maybe someone discovering a new author, or just thinking about what it is that causes us to like this, or whatever it is. What are you hoping that people will discuss after this? Because I think this is one that I think a lot of horror fans will want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that it raises a lot of questions for viewers, honestly. Like I hope that people come out of it engaging in the same questions that the authors are engaging with in the series. So questions like what is the horror genre at all? Why do we like it? Like what does it say? Which seems a little bit like a surface level question, but I think it's actually quite a deep question. Like why do human beings like things that are horrifying? Like what is it about us that leads us into these genres? And other questions like, where does human creativity come from? Why did this particular person with this particular biography and background write this particular story? Where do these things come from? I think those are all really fascinating questions, both in terms of the creative life, so to speak, but also just in terms of life in general. Like, I just think I don't know. I hope people come out and they're like, oh, there's so much to discuss, basically.
Yeah. Why do you suppose it is that we like it? Why are some of us drawn to it? Because I've always wondered that as a kid. Why do I like this? And my friends are like, that's so Evil Dead 2. That's just weird.
I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of answers presented in the series because I asked that question of the authors, and I don't know which one it is. I mean, I do think there's part of us on like a genetic evolutionary level that there's a programming in there that like Stephen Graham Jones has it in his episode that we were like, hardwired to be scared of things like on the savannah or whatever a million years ago. So there's still like an evolutionary memory of it, and engaging with horror and fiction scratches that itch. It makes us feel a way that evolution has told us we should feel sometimes. Um, but I also think like that's true. But like Evil Dead 2, that's not what's going on in Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Like it's just a good time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
its sense of humor, it's like sort of scary. There's like the adrenaline of the jump scares in that movie, but it also has sort of a dark cartoonish sense of humor. That's a whole other um part of the appeal of horror that I can't really account for, except that some people have it in them. Like some people are going to see the substance and say, "This is hilarious. I love this," and some people are going to see the substance and be like, "I don't understand what this is at all. Why would you ever watch this?" And I can't account for the difference. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true. And also, it's a good question about the creatives too. Is like where does that come from? Where in what dark part of your mind, like, do
yeah,
you come up with these things where these creatures that people couldn't possibly imagine, right?
yeah, yeah. It's a fascinating question.
Yeah, and I guess there is no answer to it, is there?
I mean, there is no answer. I mean, it is. I mean, it's sort of like again, it's in the documentary. Like I don't think the documentary presents an answer to these questions,
Yeah,
but it presents many answers to the question, and the hope is that viewers will sort of have fuel to ponder the question for themselves. I think is
yeah.
ultimately the hope.
Good. Well, last thing, what scares you?
Oh, well, still Large Marge, definitely.
Yeah. Why is that still scares? I saw it on my newsfeed and I was like, no.
I don't know. I mean, the real world's a pretty scary place. I think, that still scares me. I will say this, like, there are still times when I wake up in the middle of the night and just have like a sinking, undefined dread. And it's really strange, and I don't know where it comes from. So that's not an answer to your question. It's maybe just means I need to go back to therapy. I don't know, but there's definitely plenty to be scared out there.
Yeah.
Scared of out there, certainly. Yeah.
It's just that voice in your head. Right, right, right.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Go write that crummy first draft. What are you doing? Why are you sleeping?
I love it. Well, hey, well, please keep writing because we need more of this stuff, and please keep making these things. Really appreciate your work, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye.